But let's jump in to our We're Back segment. So yeah, we thought we'd do a quick rundown for like some of the games that we've been playing, some of the things we've been doing in that period of time. I think like I was chatting to you guys like about my first impressions of Skyward Sword, and yeah, like I love this game. So like I obviously won't do a review or anything like that. I plan to do a review, but like I played a lot of Twilight Princess. I would rank Skyward Sword, and it has to be like this version of Skyward Sword above Twilight Princess for me. I think this game would have been insanely frustrating to play on the Wii. Like I pretty much played in button mode for the most part of it. I was doing, the Joy-Con version for a while, but I sort of just capped out at that in the end. So it was sort of annoying me. But yeah, no, really good game. Huge quality of life improvements. Did you go back to it, Swinny? I know you were playing it a little bit.
I haven't gone back to it yet, no, unfortunately. But I've beaten the originals, so I didn't feel as much of not a rush, but I didn't feel as compelled to play through it straight away. Um, I think unlike you, where it was a brand new experience for you, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was awesome. And it's like, it was perfect timing, between the big Zelda games. Totally made sense why they did it. And like I said, I really loved it. Got through, finished everything in the game, collected everything, maxed hearts, all that
Wow.
stuff. I think like every Zelda game that I've played for a legitimate amount of time, I've done that. It feels like you have to do that. Same as Metroid that I'll sort of get to next. But the other game that I'm like getting into, part of the Dirty Dozen, is Final Fantasy VII, the original, or like
Awesome.
on the Switch. It hasn't gripped me as much as I thought it would, to be honest. And like I'm actually playing at like 3x times battle speed and everything like that. I don't know. I don't know if it's like just showing its age or I haven't gotten far enough into the game. I'm
Well,
probably like 8 or 9 hours in.
can I ask roughly, like, you could say location without spoiling, like what kind of area are you at the moment, just
I
so I
can't
get an
even remember.
indication of
I'm
where you
like
were.
out of Midgar. I'm like going around the map.
Okay.
I've gone to like multiple, like crossed the seas multiple times, if that makes any
Okay.
sense. I think I
Yeah.
got a buggy now. So I'm
Okay.
like going
Yeah.
around on a buggy. I don't
Yeah.
know what, probably about a quarter of the way through the game, maybe a fifth.
To be honest, I don't think you're probably going to see a massive change in your impressions of the game if you're probably not feeling it now. Um, for me, I think the your enjoyment of someone's enjoyment of this game really stems from how much do you love the characters in the world and do you love the battle system. If neither of
Mm.
those super grip you, the game to me doesn't have that much else to offer. And I do love Final Fantasy VII, but subsequent playthroughs over the years has lessened my take on that. So yeah.
I
You
still
know,
enjoy it. I played it. Sorry, go on, Integot.
no, I was just going to say quickly, I'll throw it back to you. Like, kind of on your point, though, Swinny, it feels a bit of a. It just doesn't feel very cohesive as a game. It feels like so many different styles and just like. Because honestly, apart from you spoiling the biggest, spoiler in the game, I didn't know anything about the game. I thought it was like sci-fi all the way through. Like I didn't actually understand it got into like the fantasy, classical Final Fantasy sort of settings and stuff, which makes sense when I think about it because of the chocobos and stuff. I'm like, how would have that worked, in my mind? But yeah, it really has just been like the tone like is really weird and changes and the setting and I don't know. Like, and having said all of that, it's still very solid. Like it's still like a 7 or 8 out of 10 for me as for what I've played so far. It's just not. It's nowhere close to Final Fantasy VI and knocking that off. That is just so cohesive, and it's probably an unfair comparison because that was the last of the 2D big ones. They'd refined everything. They were on, song, and then they've gone to a brand new thing. And you can kind of see how, I look at it and think maybe Final Fantasy IX, I could really love that because that's way more cohesive. And I know it's one of your favorites, Winnie. But Mike, what were you about to say?
Ah, to me, it's still one of my most beloved games. I think I've played it on maybe 4 or 5 different platforms now, but it's nothing compares to the original experience playing it on my 34 centimeter TV when I was a kid. And 34 centimeters is what, 17 inches? I don't
Bigger
know what the
than
maths
Swinny's
is.
TV, wasn't it?
It no, this was on my really really tiny one. I'm talking about the tiniest TV I think you can actually buy, which was the 34 centimeter one, and it didn't matter because back then I'd just be sitting right in front of it, and it was an amazing experience. What one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had, and playing it more recently on stuff like the PSP, obviously on the Switch now, on PC. I've tried all the different platforms. Didn't get as far as I did, initially when I finished the game. It didn't have the same feel, and I don't know if that's because, well, obviously there's the you play it at a certain time and you're a kid and it's a completely different world and a completely different life that you're leading then, and what you absorb and what you like and associate is completely different, and as an adult it just doesn't have the same meaning to you, and it doesn't really stand a test of time as much as something like Metroid or any of the SNES sort of era games where the pixel art is just timeless. I think with stuff like this it's starting to age a little bit, but I still, thoroughly enjoy it. Personally, it's my favorite Final Fantasy game that I've ever played. But
you haven't played Final Fantasy VI, right?
no, that's the thing, I haven't. But again, I suspect it's probably going to be the same sort of thing where I didn't play it at the right time. That playing it now just won't have the same impact because there's so many other games I've played since that it won't be the same as if you had played it back in the day. Unfortunately.
No, it'd be really
That's a
interesting if
shame.
we ever cover it on Game of some other year.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I'd definitely give it a go.
Just cranking out the rest of the ones for me. Battlefield 2042, I just played the open beta. So I'd actually pre-ordered it because they had a really good deal on Amazon and I wanted to play it on PC. Man, I felt the game was really like sluggish. So just, with my monitors, I've got gaming monitors, so they actually show me what the monitor's rendering the frames as. Like, so it's definitely, you know exactly what it is. And it was hovering at like 60 to 70 frames per second. I've got G-Sync, so it shouldn't, no frame tearing or anything like that. Some dips to like 40s and 50s every now and then. But it just felt like, I don't know, I was like sludging through stuff. Like it just didn't feel snappy or nice. Like, but having said that, I think I just much prefer, snappier Quake, Unreal Tournament, Halo style first person shooters and, multiplayer shooters. So I actually was able to cancel my pre-order. So plus I didn't feel like you guys were that hyped about playing it. I don't know. So I was a bit gun shy because I'm thinking I'm not going to play this if no one else is playing it. So
It would have been peer pressure for me, honestly. If you guys were playing it, I would have bought it.
I'm looking
Swinny.
forward to playing it. I just don't want to play a game until it's released. The idea of betas and alphas and all that, like, it just doesn't interest me unless for some reason it's like a game that I'm like, I really need to try this right now. Like, I can wait for Battlefield, So it's only going to get better, and also it's only going to get better post-release. So it's like, but 100%, like the it hasn't been well received, beta. It's like,
oh really?
There's
It
lots
hasn't.
of issues. Yeah, no, there's a lot of issues with it at the moment, and a lot of the stuff is stuff that is just not in there because it's not there yet. So, but 100%, like if you're not feeling it, cancel pre-order, and if you can always try it again in the future, and just trial it or whatever, So,
Well, I think because we're all got Game Pass Ultimate, I think it's probably going to be on there for like 10 hours. How they do the EL trial. So I'll do that. You'd be interested in this, Mike. I've got a RTX card, not a strong one at all, but Battlefield 5 had DLSS. This one, they say it's got DLSS, but I couldn't enable it. So I was probably losing like 20 frames just there as well. And then I've read online people say it does work for them, and then other people like it doesn't. Like Battlefield 5 does, but this game doesn't. So yeah, there seems to be a hell of a lot of issues with the game, unfortunately. But like having said all of this, the concept, and I was playing literally like 128 player maps and stuff. It was insane. It was really fun, and like the environmental effects were like insane. And I've never really played Battlefield, so I could see the fun in it. And last one from me quickly is just around Rocket League. So I got back into Rocket League in a really big way. I'm like right at the cusp of getting to champ.
that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm like, but I actually deleted it.
One more match. She's like, nah.
No, because what I found was that I just got so consumed with it. I wasn't like stupid. I wasn't playing it for like hours and hours and hours every day. But it would be like, oh, I've got a break at work. I'll fit in a match, before my next meeting just to refresh and get out of work mode. But then I wasn't playing Final Fantasy VII. I've got all these other games I want to play. And like, having gotten through a few games, it's like very satisfying. It just felt like I was bloody playing the same game over and over and over and over again. think I'm up to. I told you, Mike. I can't remember what the number was. Like, oh yeah, it was easy to remember. It was 6,900. No, so 690 hours
690
is what
hours,
I've put into Rocket League so far. So I thought, well, that's a good place to stop. Like 690 done. Like maybe I won't play it for a while.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's a freaking good game. Like it's probably a top 3 game for me, Rocket League of all time. Still hasn't beaten Super Metroid. That's still my number 1. Mike, over to you. What have you been up to in the last couple of months that we've been off?
Oh boy, lots of different ones. So the first one is Death's Gambit. That was a more recent one because it just recently got released on Switch with the Afterlife expansion. So if you have the game on another platform, I believe that the Afterlife expansion comes for free. So they introduced a whole bunch of new areas. For those of you who aren't familiar with Death's Gambit, it's a Metroidvania style kind of game. Really cool mechanics, awesome different. Have you seen this one, Swinny? Have you actually played it?
I've known about Death Gambit for a long time. I haven't played it.
Of course you would have. It's fantastic. The Switch version was on special, pre-release special, which was really good. I think it was 10% off. And I played the original ages and ages ago when it was out on Game Pass, because I think when it originally came out it was available on Game Pass. So I played it a little bit then, but not enough to really get far. But from what I've heard, the improvements they've made are really good. Highly recommend it to both of you guys. I think it's right up your alley. It's pure.
Sorry, that is the most Dark Souls stat screen on the.
Absolutely Dark Soulsy. It absolutely is. It takes so much inspiration from Dark Souls, and I think unashamedly so. It also has quite a few little quirky pieces of dialogue that also reference it, but in a very joking kind of way. So, really cool game. Highly recommend it on any platform. I happen to play it on the Switch, which I think is a really good one to play it on.
How does it compare to Ender Lilies? Because that's another Metroidvania that's got some Dark Souls inspiration.
Yeah. So it's not. It's weird. In a way, Ender Lilies I feel was a more polished experience, but in terms of my enjoyment of the game and the ability to experiment, I prefer this one. So I went down, for example, down the magic path, but I feel like going as a melee build would be significantly different in terms of the gameplay.
Okay.
So really, really fun. It reminds me a little bit of Salt and Sanctuary in some ways. It's a different sort of combat, the way it plays. Again, heavily inspired by Dark Souls, which is an awesome thing. It's not a bad thing at all. So highly recommend it. Love the game. What else?
Sorry, just wanted to correct. Death Gambit's not on Xbox. So
it's not on Xbox, sorry, no.
So it wouldn't have been on Game Pass. So
I think it was on Game Pass on PC. That's where I originally played it. Yeah. I mean, Swinny can confirm
I'll check it. I'll check it.
Pretty sure it was on that.
Swinny
oh my gosh, the boss that's showing on the screen right now is the one I'm
you're-
stuck at.
That's correct.
It was.
Correct.
Really?
Okay,
So
well,
it's only PC?
Yeah, well,
That's
only
so
PC was
strange.
weird, yeah.
And there weren't achievements enabled. That's why it didn't show up in my list.
Maybe that's why.
That's awesome.
No, because I'm searching on achievement sites. So.
No, I get you.
Yeah.
But yeah, highly recommend it. It's a shame that it's not available on Game Pass, and it's not available on Xbox at all, is it now? Is it actually out on Xbox? I know it's on PlayStation and Switch.
No.
That's a real shame. Also extremely weird that it would be on Game Pass, but then not available at all on Xbox, but all the other platforms. In any case, great game. So what else? The next thing that I've been doing is dabbling a little bit into racing games. So I finally set up my wheels. Now, I say wheels because I'm an idiot that unfortunately had to purchase both of the Logitech wheels, the G29 and G920, I think it is.
Why?
Because one's for the Xbox, one's for the PlayStation, and they're not intercompatible. I know.
I know
really
that they're
annoying.
not. I know that they both work on PC, but don't
They
work
both
on
work
each
on
other.
PC, yeah, but they don't work on each other, which
But
is
you've got
really
both,
annoying.
just so you can play like Forza and also like a Gran Turismo.
Well, I had different racing games. So one thing that I may have mentioned in the past is I obviously play a lot of different kinds of games, but one of the things that I quite enjoy are racing games of all sorts, both rally, proper racing games, sims, arcade racing, whatever. And they happen to have the wheels on special. It's like 2-3 years ago or something. I don't remember when. So I basically managed to get both of them for the price of just one. So of course
so
I ended up
hectic.
getting both to be able to play both. So that's not
Wow,
the
two
point.
for the price of one's insane.
It was actually really good because they were retailing for I think 450 or $500 or something, and I got them for about 250 each, which was worth it. And also got the side drive stick shift or manual for those in Australia, and I also you can get the Logitech stick shifter as a separate attachment, so you can do the proper manual shifting with a clutch and everything. And then I just threw every game over the course of about 3 weeks at this thing, but on PC, on Xbox, on PlayStation. So Gran Turismo Sport, which I think is what's showing now in the B-roll. Obviously Forza, Assetto Corsa, pretty much anything that I had access to that either I already had or was available cheaply to purchase, I played it. And awesome experiences. Interestingly enough, though, and I don't know if that's the thing that says something about my personal character. Probably the most fun I had was in Forza Horizon 4, and that is turning off the HUD and having absolutely nothing, no minimap, nothing, and just driving around. Doing literally nothing, like just spending a few hours at a time, maybe just driving the streets, like I'm in the real world or something, just playing around with the stick shifter, which was really fun.
I don't know much about Forza. Like the only Forza game I'd ever played was the one on 360 with you. But
Forza 2, wasn't it?
I think it was two, yeah.
yeah, probably. But my impression from just the random general gaming community, it feels almost like Forza Horizon is now the premier brand for Forza.
It probably is, yeah, but it's a totally different kind of game.
I know it's totally different,
Obviously,
like
yeah,
open
but
world and all that
it would
stuff.
be,
But
yeah.
yeah, it just feels
I
like
agree.
that the vibe of it. And now it's kind of surprising that Forza Horizon 5, right, is coming out, the one based in Mexico, before the next Forza
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
which is strange.
It's also, by the way, quite ironic that it's the game that is least suitable for a wheel. I couldn't play the actual races with a wheel.
That's what I thought.
Yet it was the
if you
most
ever
fun.
if you ever want to sell the PlayStation wheel, let me know before you sell it.
The PlayStation's actually the one I want to keep because
Oh,
of the
okay.
new Gran Turismo that's coming out. And also,
That's why.
interestingly enough, even though they're priced the same, the PlayStation one has more features on it.
It's
It's
got
got an
extra
extra
buttons, yeah.
dial. It's got
Yeah.
extra buttons. It even has the actual rev counter, so you know when to shift, as
Mm.
actual LEDs on the wheel, which is really cool. And the Xbox One doesn't, so I think it's worse value. In
We,
any
we
case,
haven't spoken about this, Swinny. Sorry, Mike.
Mm.
But I did reach out to Mike because I've been watching heaps of F1, and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I'll like get a wheel, and then I'm like, I've got to back out of this insanity.
It's look, I don't want to push you towards it. It's freaking awesome, is all I can
Look,
say.
I
It's
cannot judge any video game purchases ever because I purchase stupid
So-
things for stupid
What?
reasons.
It's not about judging. I don't want him to make a purchase that he may not enjoy. I personally love it. It's by far my favorite way of playing those games now. However, and I will put a little asterisk next to that. Another friend was asking me the same thing. He's like, "Oh, I want to get this wheel, blah blah blah." So eventually, he ended up settling. He plays GT Sport a lot, and I mean a lot. It's probably his most played favorite game. And he ended up getting it, and he did not enjoy it. He was slower than using a controller. And I said, give it time because he spent probably thousands of hours playing that game with a controller. So his brain would just be switched into that. Whereas he just didn't enjoy it with the wheel. And he didn't enjoy it mostly, I think, because he wasn't getting good lap times. And he's very competitive and he plays online quite a lot. So if you do it just for the enjoyment and the fact that it feels so much better, it's amazing. It's one of the coolest experiences I've had. And put VR on top of that, if you plug it into your PC, it's amazing. It's so cool.
I don't want to get stuck in there when Facebook goes down.
So cool. So the last one, because I think we talked enough about racing games, is the one that comes to mind. It's actually a whole bunch of different titles, but Windbound is the one that I booted up more recently. So I haven't really gotten extremely far into it just yet, but I'm really enjoying the experience so far. It's made by an Australian team, which is why I actually honestly got it, just because I really wanted to support Australian development. It looks a little bit like Zelda, and I feel like it had some inspiration from that game in some good ways. So far, it's just a really cool, chill game that you need to craft different resources in order to sail to a bunch of different islands in order to unlock the statues that are actually showing right now on the screen, which then progresses to the next section. It's procedurally generated, but so far the environments have actually been pretty good, and it's just a really cool, chill game. The difficulty is
It's got Wind Waker vibes in the clip here.
yeah,
Which is
mixed
pretty
Yeah,
with
massively.
mixed with a little bit of Breath of the Wild. It really does feel like it. Even the music feels so inspired by Breath of the Wild. In any case, Australian developer. I think it's currently on special on Switch again, so I recommend it. And I have been playing a bunch of other titles. Oh gosh, so
Sorry,
golf.
one
Yep.
question. Sorry, one
Not bad.
question. You said that Switch. How does that run on the Switch? Because that
Not
game,
bad.
that game looked pretty good. I'm thinking, how does the Switch running on that
It
game?
feels like generally 30. Sometimes it does dip a little bit, but from what I've seen from reviews and stuff as well before I purchased it, people were saying it runs fine. It's a relatively solid 30 so far. It's certainly not jarring in terms of the
Cool.
experience. So yeah, it's pretty
It
good.
looks very ambitious for a small developer. Like even if it's a not a total indie of a couple of people, I don't know what the dev team's like, but no Australian studio is that big. So yeah, that's pretty impressive.
It's pretty ambitious. Really cool. And just really quickly, Golf Club Wasteland was really cool. Another sort of small scale developer. Beautiful Desolation, I quite enjoyed. Not super far into it. It's a isometric adventure game, so it looks like an isometric sort of RPG, but it's more of an adventure game. Dabbled a little bit again in No Man's Sky, sort of just checking out the latest expansion. Although I spent most of the time trying to get my head around what the hell am I doing again, and also played the Ascent with shout out to Joe Jives a little bit. So we haven't quite finished it, but eventually I think we will.
And I got to apologize for being a very negative Nancy when I tried to play that game with you guys.
Yeah,
I wasn't in the mood to. I was not in the mood to play that style of game, especially co-op at the time, and I think I made it very clear,
So
and
disappointing.
I shouldn't have been so negative. So it seemed like a good game.
Yeah, it's
but I
fun.
was
It's
a
a bit of fun.
downer.
That's all right. We forgive you. So what about you? Since what have you been playing?
Well, first thing I just got to do one quick thing.
Oh, here we go.
Ooh, what's going on?
He's just for the audio listeners, he's got off his chair.
Okay, all
Hell?
right,
So,
here we go.
You have to describe it for the
Yeah.
audio listeners.
So I have my most recent purchase wearing on top of my head, which is an official, very well made Assassin's Creed Odyssey baseball cap.
Can I just
Best
say,
game ever
Swinny,
made.
I have saved this story until this moment, right? I was driving in the car and I was kind of pulling up to a light, and then this kid had an Assassin's Creed Odyssey t-shirt. And I almost crashed
there
the
you
car
go.
trying to grab my phone to take a photo. Not that I ever would do that.
There's
No, you
for
wouldn't.
any
dozens
police-
of us.
In case
I was like,
anyone's-
oh my god, yeah, that's exactly the line. When I was, if I could take a photo, I was gonna write dozens of us.
This legitimately got shipped out from the UK.
Oh my god,
It's
like it.
actually, I'm shocked by how well made it is. It's actually a good cap.
Well,
I was like
when
just
you-
buying
when-
it for a joke, but I'm
when
like,
you-
it's actually a good hat.
When you're making 3 of them, you can do it handmade, obviously.
It also doesn't. It also doesn't look like super obviously like a video game thing.
That's
so I'm
true.
like, okay.
Yeah.
Does it have
that's
anything on the
alright,
back?
That's right.
Does it have anything on the
Nah.
back? Oh, yeah, you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
I could even wear that where I work, where you can't even say that you're a gamer. You have to be a closeted gamer.
Okay. All right. So what have I been up to? Look, there's a few. Honestly, I've played a lot of games and I've completed a lot of games. It's you got a lot of more free time when you're not doing the show, so we should break more often. So I played through a really cool little mech RPG called Armed Emeth, which is developed by Hellpoint, published by Kemco. Came out at the start of August. Starts off very light-hearted. Shit gets serious. It's actually a really cool RPG. Probably one of the best games I've played this year, actually. And would be a really fun, like 20-hour RPG for the Switch. So really cool. Armed Emeth. I played through Dodgeball Academia. So that actually came out the same day as Armed Emeth on 5th of August. and went straight into Game Pass. That's why there's quite a bit of like a mini bubble of hype when that game came out because it was in Game Pass. Really fun game, pretty short, so it's a nice like short experience. It's like a cross between like Paper Mario, South Park Stick of Truth, but then some elements of Pokemon. But then you get into the battles, and they're like action dodgeball battles, but with stats and gear and stuff. So really fun. I believe it's still on Game Pass, so it's worth trying out. Orangeblood which is the most recent game I've played through. Oh my god, this game, very strange, really unique hip-hop JRPG centered around gang warfare, Japanese girls, and the governmental conspiracies. It's the most bizarre game I've ever played.
Those screenshots are awesome.
It gave me some of the most what the fuck things ever. Like, the dialogue is absolutely atrocious. Like, every second word is like motherfucker and all this stuff. Like, it's so bad. It was made by like one dude in RPG Maker. And it's like, but they did a lot of extra work to it. So unless you know, it's not super obvious. But yeah, honestly, it's an interesting curiosity. If it's a few bucks, Orangeblood is worth trying if you like JRPGs. But otherwise, I'd give it a miss. Evoland. So Evoland, I did mention to you guys a little while back. So Evoland Legendary Edition is a collection of Evoland 1 and 2. These games are absolutely fantastic. Like, I was shocked how much I love these. These are basically games that are built around the idea of other games. So they're their own like campaigns and stories, but especially number 2. Number 2 is a fully fledged game. The first one is almost feels like a prototype. It's the second one. But basically they blend all different types of gameplay. So 1 minute it's like a Zelda-style action RPG. Another, it's a turn-based JRPG. Then you go into a dungeon, it's like Diablo. Then it's a Fire Emblem game. And the next level or next map that you go into. But they work it all in a really cool way, I think. It's always on special. So Evoland, it's on Switch. It's always on special. You guys should both try it, especially when it's like $3 sometimes. And the second game's actually got a lot of meat to it, so really cool. Final Fantasy II. So as part of my gaming resolutions, I've been playing through any of the mainline single-player RPG, Final Fantasy games that I haven't played before or completed. And this was my first ever playthrough of Final Fantasy II, and it will probably be my only ever playthrough of Final Fantasy II.
Can I clarify being the nerd? And, I know people would ask, Final Fantasy II US or Final Fantasy IV, or is this Final Fantasy II NES?
Final Fantasy II NES. So it is, and I'm playing the Dawn of Souls version, which combined on Game Boy Advance.
Yep, cool.
So there's done tons of different versions. But basically, yeah, this game, very innovative for its time. System's really tough to deal with. I have a lot more I want to say about this game, but I'll leave it for when we hopefully eventually do a tier list of Final Fantasy games.
Ooh, you can't move on from it. Sorry, Swinny. You can't just move on when one of our most controversial videos is the Assassin's Creed tier list.
People are gonna hate.
He's gonna double down.
Fantasy. But Final Fantasy is way more
awesome.
like. There's way more different opinions on Final Fantasy games than there are for something like Assassin's Creed. Like, there's people like. Anyway, we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah. Cool.
But the games I kind of want to just give a little bit more of a shout out to. So the first one is Arafel. So hopefully you've got it up. So this game came out March last year. It's a game I had in my backlog for a while. It's from Stegosoft Games, and to me, this is a really special game. Its legacy is actually really cool. So this actually began as an RPG Maker 2003 game that came out in 2007. Then later on, they ported it. They rebuilt it using Unity, and then that was what an Arafel Enhanced Edition is.
Interesting.
And I love this game so much. It's like anyone that loves like JRPGs, especially classic SNES JRPGs. Please buy this game. Like, it deserves so much more attention. It's really good. The battle system is absolutely wonderful. It's really challenging at times. It feels fair. It looks great. It's just overall a fantastic game. It's not super long. But Arafel, it's always on special as well. Really, really great. The next game...
Before you move on, how long is the game, roughly?
I don't know, probably 20 to 30, which is
good.
probably like, when we're talking JRPGs, like that's kind of like, I think, a good length, especially for these kind of ones. But it's not, it's a game that doesn't feel too big. You know, some
Yep.
games you like overwhelmed. This game is just
Okay.
nice and succinct. But the game, which unfortunately we couldn't get the B-roll for it, the game I really wanted to point out for you guys is, oh boy, Mike especially, this game, Hellpoint. So I know you know about this game, Mike, because I think you've mentioned buying it before, but I don't
Yes.
believe you played through it.
No,
This was
only
my
the beginning.
this was my biggest surprise of the year. I had heard this game had a little bit of a buzz, but I love this game so much. But it's also one of the buggiest, jankiest games I've played in a long time. And it's kind of, if I can explain it this way, if you love Dark Souls, you'll probably really like this game. But if you only like, yeah, Dark Souls okay, you probably won't like this game. It's like, I think you have to have a love for that style of game for this to click with you. But basically, it's like Dark Souls meets Event Horizon, like crazy space sci-fi mixed with hell stuff. But
Cool.
like, not, it feels a bit different than like your Doom or something. It feels more like Event Horizon, where it's like satanic, kind of like, but like Doom's very tongue in cheek. This is serious. You know what I mean? But yeah, it takes obscure systems of Dark Souls and just like amplifies it. It's like they basically said, we want to, everything we love about Dark Souls, we want to turn up to 11. It is, as I said, it's buggy, so it's like even the last boss doesn't work properly and stuff like that. So it's like you got to put up with that jank. But I really recommend Hellpoint to anyone that absolutely loves Dark Souls. So
Gotta get
the
into it.
last, yeah, the last game. I'm actually not going to spend too long on this because I could talk for a long time about this game. I might do a belated review. I don't know yet. Tales of Arise. So we all know in past episodes that I've been super looking forward to this game. I'm a massive fan of the Tales series, the ones that I've played. This is an awesome game, but it's also very flawed as well. So I've beaten this twice. So I've kind of really, the good parts and the bad parts really stick out to me now. It's absolutely beautiful. The battle system is amazing. It just feels so smooth. You feel like a badass in this game. But I'd say it gives a great first impression for the first, like, let's say 30 hours, because it's a long game. 30 hours is like, oh, this is awesome. But then like the last quarter of the game, a lot of that stuff seems to fall apart, or it just feels like it's rushed at the end. So I'd say if you love the Tales games, this is a no-brainer. Everyone else, there's a demo. Give that a shot. If you like the feel of it, then you'll probably like the game.
Because how long did it take you to beat it the first time? Because I think I gave you a week to review it in the original schedule.
It's funny. I actually beat it in just over a week.
There you go.
Or a week.
You probably could have done a review.
Yeah, like you were actually your estimates were strangely on the money. The reason why I laughed at your estimates is because I was expecting this game to be based on Tales of Vesperia to be a really hard achievement completion. It was actually really easy. Like I've done it twice already. So
Is it a one run or a 2 run to achieve everything?
one run. Like there's
Every game should be like that.
There's zero missable. Like it's the complete opposite of Tales of Vesperia when it comes to what you got to do to get all the achievements. So, but it's like just as a game, it's I give the demo a shot if you like it. There's a lot of anime. If you don't like anime, then you're not going to like this. So,
Oh, look, this looks really cool.
Tales of Rise is great. It is great.
I didn't get Tales of Vesperia thanks to you.
Yes, that game is
Advertising
way
it so
better in
much.
my opinion. But that's just my
Okay,
opinion.
cool.
But
Looking forward to it on the Switch.
the average opinion would be like Arise is the one to get now. Yeah.
This game is much more, I think, accessible. I think the casual. It's like people that aren't super hardcore into that style of game. It's got a much broader appeal, so that's why I think it's so successful at the moment.